Welcome in, Ravens flock. This is Jordan with Ravens Flash Report. Today I'm going to be previewing for you the upcoming matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and your Baltimore Ravens. Both teams are coming off tough losses and will be looking to rebound in primetime this Thursday night in Baltimore. While neither team is at full strength while coming into this game, they are certainly both better football teams than they were when they met in Week 2 of this year. We'll go over important player matchups, keys to victory for both teams, and what the expectations should be for both teams in what is lining up to be a pivotal game for both franchises as Baltimore looks to stay in the front of the pack while Cincinnati tries to stay with the pack. Let's get to it.
They're going to get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that. Believe that. I'm a Raven. It's on. All year. Every year.
Before we get to the preview, I wanted to give a quick thank you to all the new subscribers that have shown their support for me since starting my channel back in August, which reminds me to ask those of you listening to like and subscribe. I recently crossed over 300 subscribers and it's happened way faster than I thought. Thank you all for your kind comments and great insights. Also, I have an announcement at the end of the video regarding a 500 subscriber special, so stay tuned for that. Now, Baltimore started the season off with a tough divisional test, having all three of their divisional opponents' away games in the first 5 weeks of the season. Winning 2 out of the 3 was a good start, but losing to the Browns in Baltimore this past Sunday was an unexpected setback for the now 7-3 Ravens, who are looking to stay in the driver's seat of this AFC North division. The Bengals, on the other hand, have had to dig themselves out of a hole early after losing 2 key divisional games to start the season. But with Burrow looking healthy, they are starting to hit their stride midway through the season, and although they sit at 5-4, they're still aiming for not only a playoff berth, but also their 3rd straight divisional crown. Each team will need to succeed in several different areas on Thursday night if they want to walk away with the win. For the Bengals, it starts in the trenches on both sides of the ball. They will need to protect Burrow if they intend to create chunk plays and limit the amount of time he ends up on his back against a Ravens defense that is leading the league in sacks and has for the last several weeks. On the other side of the ball, we saw that containing the Ravens' run, while by no means an easy task, has been a proven way to limit an otherwise very potent offense. The Bengals will also have to try their best to get to Lamar Jackson through what has been a shaky O-line for the Ravens. Lamar has been sacked 24 times, though, through just 10 games. If the Bengals want to keep the Ravens' offense off the field, they're going to need to try to get to Lamar. Lastly, try and establish the run game early on. The Ravens have given up a lead in the fourth quarter of every loss that they've had this season. If the Ravens' defense gets gassed early in this game, we have seen them fall apart towards the end of the game, allowing for the Bengals to either seize control or maintain it. The Ravens, on the other hand, will have similar, if a bit more specific, keys to win. Keaton Mitchell must, I repeat, must be more involved in the game plan, and I would say a necessary 10 touches minimum in a balanced rushing attack with Gus getting another 10 attempts as well. Lamar needs to have hot routes available. Last week against arguably the best defensive front in the game, Lamar had very little time to get the ball out, and with few options to go to, it led to sacks and throwaways instead of opportunities to beat the pressure. With Marlon Humphrey probably not a full go for Thursday, the secondary will have to step up and try to contain Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd. Even without T. Higgins, this Ravens secondary will have its hands full trying to limit all of Burrow's options. Stopping the run at the line of scrimmage. Last week we saw the Ravens get run over by Jerome Ford to the tune of 107 yards on 17 attempts and 178 yards on the day in total. I've made my opinions known about how whelming I think Joe Mixon is. The Ravens should prove me right about that on Thursday to improve their chances in this game. Along with those keys to victory for each team, there's several other important matchups between either individual players or position groups that could sway the tides of momentum for either team should the winner of these matchups consistently beat the other. The first and possibly most important matchup of the day will be the Ravens' offensive line versus the Bengals' defensive line. If the Bengals more consistently win this matchup, it will limit the rushing attack of the Ravens, put pressure on Lamar, which in turn could create turnovers, and will give the Bengals the edge when it comes to time of possession. If the Ravens' offensive line can overpower the Bengals' defensive line more often than not, they'll be better able to protect Lamar, open up running lanes for their backs, which in turn will create more opportunities for Lamar to go downfield off of play-action passes. The next matchup is not a group, but simply 2 players who will undoubtedly have an impact on each other's performance. Lamar Jackson versus Cam Taylor-Britt. The last time these two were on the field, CTB did not have a large impact on the outcome, finishing with a stat line of simply 5 solo tackles. Since then, CTB has recorded an interception in his previous 2 games and 4 interceptions over the last 5 games. all while having a passer rating of 66.3 on the season, down from last year's 102.9. Lamar, on the other hand, threw 2 interceptions just last week against the Browns. One was his fault, but the other one wasn't, and has been slightly inconsistent passing the ball over the last 4 weeks, with passer ratings going from 155.8 versus Detroit to last week's 67.8 against the Browns, his second lowest rating on the year. If Lamar has time to throw, he can pick this secondary apart, but if Lamar is not sharp or he's throwing under pressure often and makes mistakes or a bad throw, look for CTB to try and capitalize. Similarly, the matchup opposite to that is Joe Burrow versus Geno Stone. Burrow also threw 2 interceptions last week against the Texans, and while Geno didn't have a pick last week, he does have 6 on the season, leading the NFL. With Marcus Williams available but not at 100%, and his tackling ability inhibited by injury, I would look for the Ravens to put Stone in a better position this week to make an impact against the Bengals passing game. This matchup, like Lamar versus CTB, will be helped or hindered by the protection offered by the QB's respective offensive lines, and with the Ravens leading the NFL in sacks, I would be on the lookout for Burrow to make a mistake and Geno to be in the right place at the right time to get his 7th interception on the season. Last matchup I see as being extremely compelling in this game, but not between players, rather Brian Callahan and Zach Taylor versus Mike Macdonald. The year before Mike Macdonald took over as the Ravens' defensive coordinator, the Bengals had 2 of the most lopsided wins in this rivalry's history, racking up 1,095 yards of offense, 934 of those yards through the air, 10 total touchdowns, and only 1 turnover, an interception. Mind you, this is in 2 games. But in the 4 times these teams have met with Mike Macdonald at the helm, the numbers look a bit different. 1,064 yards of offense, with 791 through the air, 8 total touchdowns, and 4 turnovers, coming from 2 picks and 2 fumbles lost. Burrow also had an 87.225 passer rating against the Ravens under Macdonald. His career average is over 10 points higher at 98.6. Burrow also averages below 200 yards passing per game at 197.75, over 75 yards fewer than his career average of 274.2 yards per game. If Callahan and Taylor can put Burrow in positions to succeed from a play calling aspect, that will help significantly in overcoming the Ravens' fast and aggressive defense. If not, well, Burrow's fantasy owners might be in for a letdown. Expectations for this game are anyone's guess, after both teams were handed surprising losses last week by good yet mostly agreed upon underdog teams in the Browns and the Texans. That being said, I do expect the Ravens to try to reestablish their run game dominance after barely clearing 100 yards on the ground with 106, for their lowest total since Week 13 of last year against the Broncos when they had 103 rushing yards. I also expect the Bengals to put pressure on this Ravens defense, as their offense has averaged 392 yards per game of total offense since their bye week. Both of these teams will be fighting for their place in the division, and while I do think a short week for both teams may affect how the other performs, I don't see this coming down to a last-minute kick to win it. Mike Macdonald has been too good and too consistent in his first 2 years when facing the Bengals for me to believe that this game with this defense is going to turn into a blowout for the Bengals, as their largest win was by a margin of 14 points, and when facing good defenses, they have mostly been held in check, the only outlier being the 49ers in Week 8. Lamar and the Ravens are very good historically when coming back from a loss, and rarely do they lose 2 in a row. I would expect this Ravens team, who weren't even content after 2 blowouts against the Detroit Lions and Seattle Seahawks, to be mad as heck going into this game about how that Browns game ended. I expect them to right the ship this Thursday. I want to end, as I usually do, by giving you guys my final score prediction for this game, and while I was surprised about the Browns beating us last week, perhaps even more surprising is the fact that I'm more confident in the Ravens against this Bengals team. My score prediction is Ravens win 34-17. Put your score predictions down in the comment section, and if you have a hot take or a breakout player for either team, put that alongside it with their stats. As always, I appreciate you guys checking out the video. Please, if you haven't already, leave the video a like and go check out my channel for more interesting Ravens-related content. So, announcement time, and thank you for those of you that stuck around. Since starting this channel, I've been debating on whether or not to show my face or not, and after having thought about it for some time now, I believe that getting a camera will help me make better content for you and give a more personal touch to the channel, since you will be seeing me and not just the graphics and pictures I put up. I will still produce graphics and charts to reference, but I think for the channel and the content that I want to make going forward, this is the direction I want to take. So, as I said in the opening, I will start this once I hit 500 subscribers, not only to give myself time to mentally prepare for putting my face out on the internet, but also because once I hit 500 subscribers, I can create a channel membership program, which I personally feel would be benefited by me being face to screen with you all. Anyway, I just wanted to let you all in on my plans for the channel going forward. I really do appreciate all the support from everyone, and I'm happy to be able to make content for you all and react to all things Ravens with you guys. But that's it for me. I'll see you all after the game. Stay safe out there, and go Ravens.